when I saw the bookshop down there in Clare Woods running it, I had to think of John Sinnott.
Yeah.
I've been part of AETA for a long time. John Sinnott was the heart and soul of AETA. So he's still with us, but he's not well. So thanks for your music too. So just to remember him. And the other guy to remember, whom you may not know, is a bloke called, unforgettably, Bill Dagg. Now, Bill, a Vietnam veteran, ran the Rotary Goods in Kind, I think it was called, for East Timor, and that still operates, and he was the guy behind it. And I have to say, I don't want to be too sad, but I have to say about 3 weeks ago, he rang me to say goodbye because he's got pancreatic cancer and he knows that's the end. And then he said, I don't want to have any visitors and all this sort of stuff. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure Bill was mentioned. I have a chapter in my book actually about him called Oh, What a Dagg, D-A-G-G. Anyway, look, the other thing, if I may, just in relation to Santa Cruz, is that it sort of happened at an interesting time in the evolution of the Timor issue internationally. It had been dead as a dodo, no one was interested, we were all pushing shit uphill and all the rest of it. But first, the current coloniser made a move, and then the old coloniser made a move. The current coloniser at the time was Suharto, and under international pressure, he opened up East Timor in 1989, 2 years before Santa Cruz, to the international community. And a lot of us, Kirsty Saw and others, and the people who eventually made the movie about all this, and of course Max, were able to go in, claiming to be tourists and to do all sorts of really good stuff. Thanks to Suharto, our leader. The other one was Portugal, who sort of missing in action, had very bad press for their poor performance on Timor over many years, but they finally got their act together in about middle of the 1980s, and Mario Soares had Timor join the EU, and then the following year they joined the European Parliament, and they used those international connections to talk about East Timor, and particularly to build alliances with Ireland, with Greece, for God's sake, and with Italy. And when Santa Cruz happened, and of course it happened because the Portuguese delegation had been cancelled, Portugal was sort of already on the job. So I just think the international context should be mentioned because we can sort of give the impression that, you know, Santa Cruz started everything again. There was actually a lot going on, but it fell, I don't know whether you'd say it fell on fertile ground, but the environment was pretty receptive, more receptive than it had been at that point in time. Anyway, I just want to say something about, to flash back to the past, but also to the future. The leading candidate in the Indonesian elections, the campaign starts in a couple of weeks, 28th of November, and runs for 75 days. The leading candidate, for God's sake, is none other than Prabowo Subianto, a former general in East Timor, who did several tours of duty there, was an absolute disaster, thoroughly odious guy, and if Indonesia elects him as its next president, it will certainly take the place back, and so I don't think enhance Indonesia. I am anything but anti-Indonesian. I've spent a lot of my life working with Indonesians and for Indonesia. I'm not anti-Indonesian, but I do believe that if he is elected, it will not enhance Indonesia, and it will certainly internally not enhance Indonesia's record internationally. So I have written sort of a background on Prabowo. Some of the key people in AETA have it, and I presume you'll sort of send it around to everybody here, so I don't need to ask you for your emails or anything tonight. But it's aimed at Indonesian electors. It's saying to them, listen, all you millennials who've got short-term memories and don't really know what this guy was doing, or to have a wider appreciation of him. He's trying to reinvent himself and all the rest of it. But his record in Timor is shocking, and people at least ought to know what they're getting if they elect him. So if you have contacts in Indonesia, and through East Timor in Indonesia, please do what you can. But it doesn't do any harm to raise the alarm here as well. Richard Marles, the Deputy Prime Minister, is in Jakarta today, meeting with Prabowo, who happens to be the Defence Minister. Albanese, our Prime Minister, is in San Francisco, meeting with Jokowi. And sadly, Jokowi has given the primata to Prabowo. I won't go into all that. I'll just say I've just come from a meeting with some Indonesian friends in Fed Square, and they were all totally anti-Prabowo and pro-Ganjar, his Democrat competitor. So that was really nice. And then I got an email from an Indonesian journalist who I know quite well, who said, thanks for your email, I'll forward your email to journalist friends of mine, but I'm afraid Prabowo's electoral prospects are quite bright at the moment, with Jokowi's backing and the state apparatus behind his back. Ganjar, the guy who a lot of us prefer, might not even make it to the second round. So it starts 28th, runs for 75 days, February the elections. I think it's in everybody's interest, including the East Timorese. As I said in the document, is it fair for East Timorese victims of war crimes and crimes against humanity to have to accommodate their tormentor as leader of the important neighbour their country needs to work with? And what would his presidency mean for West Papuans? So I commend the document to you when you get it through AETA, if I may presume that you would send it out, and ask you to do whatever you can through journalists, through contacts, academia, etc., to try and at least raise the alarm and hope we can head this bloke off. He's 72, so I think this is his last shot. He's already had 4 goes. Last 2 he lost. I think he's an absolute failure, and Indonesians ought to see him as a failure, because he obviously failed in East Timor. The place is independent. He was there to stop it from being independent. He's a dud, but he's very well connected, he's very wealthy, and all the rest of it. So, over to you, as it were.
I think we're going to have some more music. I think we're going to have some wine. I think we're going to have some food. Hopefully we're going to buy some books. So I would invite again John Chubby up to the stage